conversation about admissions policy for the 2021-2022 school year. I'm Adrian Austin, your Deputy Chancellor for Community Empowerment, Partnerships and Communications, and I will be your moderator for this virtual community meeting. It is important that all of our families are able to participate tonight, and we are very grateful to the Spanish, Mandarin, and Korean interpreters who are with us on a separate line. Thank you to Juan Carlos Castaneda and Leiby Diaz, who are our Spanish interpreters. Thank you to Kiki Liang and Yudi Wu, who are our Mandarin interpreters. And thank you to Angie Yeji and Cecilia Lee, who are our Korean interpreters. There is a link for the translated versions of the admissions presentation in the chat. We will now introduce our instructions in Mandarin, Korean, and Spanish. With that, Leiby, can you please provide the instructions in Spanish?
Yes. Por favor, a todas las personas, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Leiby Díaz. Yo voy a ser su intérprete hoy. Por favor, marquen en su teléfono el número 888-475-4999. Eso es gratuito y entren la contraseña 735-255-0102. Repito, marquen en su teléfono el número para accesar la llamada 888-475-4499. Eso es gratuito y la contraseña es 735-255-0102. Si ustedes quieren escuchar el audio en español, pueden entonces, para ver la conferencia virtual en Zoom, ustedes pueden hacerlo, pero en su computadora, pero deben poner su micrófono en mudo. O sea, el volumen tiene que estar en mudo. Entonces, deben llamar en su teléfono marcando al número 888-475-4499 para accesar la llamada en español. Y la contraseña que deben marcar es 735-255-0102. Muchas gracias. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Leiby. Yudi, can you please provide the instructions in Mandarin?
Yes. 大家好啊，我是 Yudi， 我是你们今天的国语的翻译。如果你们需要讲国语的翻译的话，请拨打888-475-4499 888-475-4499， 输入密码933-059-6663。我再重复一遍，密码是933-059-6663。如果你需要讲国语的话呢，翻译的话，你可以在我们这个网上面 Zoom 也可以，或者用电话的方式也可以。如果是用电话的方式的话，请你拨打一下这个电话是888-475-4499， 输入密码933-059-6663。好，谢谢。
Thank you.
Thank you.
Angie, can you please provide the instructions in Korean?
Yes. 안녕하세요. 한국어 통역이 필요하신 분은 전화로 888-475-4499 여기에 핀 넘버 674-052-0976으로 넣으셔서 한국어 통역 서비스를 받으시기 바랍니다. 그 줌으로 컴퓨터로 로그인을 하셔가지고 저희 회의를 화상으로 보시면서 한국어 통역이 필요하시면 컴퓨터의 볼륨을 꺼주시고 그 전화로서 저희가 통역 서비스가 나가니까요. 다시 한번 전화번호 알려드리겠습니다. 888-475-4499로 전화하셔서 핀 넘버 674-052-0976 누르셔서 한국어 서비스 제공 받으시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you. If anyone needs closed captioning on the teleconference once the meeting starts, please click on the CC button at the bottom of your screen. Once again, my name is Adrian Austin, and I'm your moderator for this evening. And I'm really excited about this community conversation. As the most diverse city in the nation, we enter these conversations with a wide range of experiences and perspectives. And that's what makes these convenings so valuable for us at DOE. We have made a commitment to do policy with communities and not to communities. And that starts with us making space to hear from you. So thank you for being here with us tonight and engaging with us in this policy-making process. Before I go into how this meeting will work, I would like everyone to know that we realize some of these meetings have posed conflicts for members of our community around religious observations. While we don't have the details yet, I can promise you that we will be scheduling an additional citywide forum to give everyone another opportunity to participate in this experience. I will now provide some details on how the meeting is going to work tonight. All participants will be able to listen to this meeting via computer audio or by phone, and I will call the names of those of you who wish to provide feedback when the discussion portion of the meeting begins. When a member of the public's name is called, your line will be unmuted. If you are asking your question or making a statement in Spanish, Mandarin, or Korean, it will be interpreted by the interpreter for all attendees to hear in English. If you've joined this community meeting on a computer or smartphone, you will see a hand icon at the bottom of your screen when you move your cursor over that area. Please note that we've asked people to sign up to speak ahead of the meeting and randomly generated a speaking order from that sign up. When public comment begins, we'll identify the next 5 speakers on the screen. I will call your name and you will be able to unmute yourself to speak. You can unmute yourself by finding your microphone icon on your screen and tapping it. If you see your name on the speaker list, please raise your hand so that we can find you more quickly when it's your turn to speak. You can raise your hand by finding the hand icon on your screen or opening the chat function and looking for the raise hand feature there. If you have a technical question anytime during this meeting, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom screen to type your question and we will respond. Again, the Q&A feature of this teleconference is reserved for technical questions. If your Zoom name is different from the name you used to sign up to speak, please type in the Q&A space so that we can rename you for the purposes of this meeting and find you when it's your turn to speak. Now that I've shared how this teleconference will work, I will now turn it over to our executive superintendents, Maybell Muniz-Sardui and Andre Spencer, to begin the community meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chancellor Austin. Good evening, Queens North, Queens South, community members. Today, we are here on behalf of Chancellor Carranza, hearing the voices of our community. It is a pleasure to represent District 24, 25, 26, 30, and the high schools in those districts. I have some amazing superintendents, Madeline Cheung, Danielle Domingo, Danielle Junta, Phil Composto, and Elaine Lindsay. I am proud to lead shoulder to shoulder with them. Yesterday, I had a beautiful experience in District 24, where I visited Q143. Principal Lucas was sharing with me her lion zing that her parents of temporary housing have an opportunity 3 days a week to be able to participate in the meditation and mindfulness of lion zing. It was a beautiful experience to see the parents journal writing and excited around the work. And also helping them work through this crisis that we are all facing. And in the midst of this crisis, I want to say, and I hope that each and every one of you are healthy, that your families are safe, because that's important. In the 32 years that I've been with the Department of Education, this is the first time in 32 years that I've had the opportunity to engage with the community around policy. And that is a big deal. Today, your voices will be heard. We will capture those opinions, and I am glad to be here. And now I'd like to introduce my esteemed colleague, Andre Spencer.
Well, good evening, Queens. I hope everyone is healthy and everyone is safe and everyone's family is healthy and safe. I see a lot of familiar smiling faces that I'm really excited to see. I wish I could reach out and give you a virtual hug because I'm really excited to be here this evening. We're going to have a lot of great information, but it also gives you an opportunity to provide some excellent feedback. When I think of the best borough, I think of Queens. And hopefully our Chancellor and everyone else is not on the call at this point, because it's not a battle. This is Queen's Night, and we are excited that this is Queen's Night here. I just want to say welcome to everyone. Please definitely continue to practice safety and to be safe. I would also like to send a shout out to Queen South Superintendents and Executive Director. For District 27, we have Jennifer Ambert, Superintendent, Deputy Superintendent David Normand. District 28, we have Dr. Tammy Pate, Superintendent, and Ms. Sue Kong, Deputy Superintendent. District 29, we have Beverly Mitchell, Superintendent, Dr. Sean Rux, Deputy Superintendent, and our high school district. I see you there, Ms. Gibson. District 29 shines. And for our high school superintendent, we have Juan Mendez and Deputy Superintendent Cynthia Schneider. So we're just so excited to be here tonight. We have Marlene Wilkes, who is our Executive Director for our Borough Citywide Office. We're just excited to be here tonight so that we can hear from you. As my colleague, Executive Superintendent Sardui shared, that this is a remarkable time and a remarkable space for us here in New York City Department of Education. And we know if any borough is going to represent, it is going to be Queens, without a doubt. So thank you guys for being here this evening, and we look forward to talking with you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful Deputy Chancellor, Mr. Josh Wallach.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Just want to begin by thanking Deputy Chancellor Austin and Executive Superintendents Sardui and Spencer for their partnership in bringing this event together. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight for this discussion and for taking the time and thought to participate at such a challenging moment to help us make some difficult and important decisions about the way we move forward with admissions to selective schools. It really means a lot to us that you're taking the time to share your thoughts. And we have been listening and learning, and hope to continue that tonight. And in that spirit, I'll share with you now a brief presentation that just gives us some context for the discussion. And so if we can bring that up, and as we bring it up, I'll just begin to narrate that on slide 4, which is the first one where we'll start, it sort of describes for all of you the sessions that we've been engaged in. We have been talking with students and families and leaders, teachers, community and advocacy groups, and elected officials throughout the city, and we'll be conducting these town halls in each and every borough, because we believe that we will craft the best policies if we hear and learn from diverse perspectives all over the city. And while in the end, we'll have to make a decision, and we may not all agree 100%, it will be the best and wisest course with all of your voices included. And we really appreciate, again, you're taking the time tonight to share them with us. A little bit of context, starting on the next slide. We are here today to chart a course for admissions to selective schools, not for this coming fall. This coming fall, all students who have been enrolled in a school will attend there. We are talking about admissions that will take place, the applications will take place this fall, but students will take seats in middle and high schools in the school year beginning in 2021. So again, students entering middle and high school this fall are not affected by what we'll discuss tonight. We are discussing the class that will start the following year. A few important notes about the context for this discussion. Just to say again, we have not made any decisions about how to move forward with selective admissions. We want to hear from you. and use what we learned tonight and from families around the city to help us create policy. And again, we so deeply appreciate that opportunity. So what are screen schools? On the next slide. Screen schools are schools that admit students based on academics. In middle school, for middle school applications, schools look at information from 4th grade. And in high school, they look at information from 7th grade. They typically look at 3 factors. 1, state test scores. 2, final grades. And 3, attendance. If you look at the next slide, you can see that screen schools are not the majority of schools, but there are a significant number of them. 196 middle schools and 126 high schools in our city use screens for the purpose of admitting students. So it is a significant number, and I think that just speaks to the level of participation we have tonight, because these are a big part of our system, and this issue matters to many of us with students in the system. The next slide sort of leads us into the discussion for this evening. The crisis has had many impacts on us, but one of them is that it has affected the way that we will conduct admissions in screen schools next year. Why has it done that? Well, we have to look back at the 3 factors that I discussed before. Selective schools usually look at final grades, but our grading policy was adjusted this year in response to the crisis and to recognize the disruption, the trauma that families are undergoing, and the challenges of engaging in remote learning for the first time for many students over an extended period. So our final grades will not look the way they typically do when we are doing selective admissions. Second, state tests have been suspended. They will not be held this spring, so schools will not be able to look at those to make decisions. And finally, we will not be using attendance this year, both because students are not attending school in person, but also because this virus was circulating in our communities for weeks before the decision was made to close schools. And so it's difficult to make determinations on that basis this year. So the question comes to all of us: how should selective schools make these decisions in the coming year? And we have not made any decisions about how that should occur, but we have principles that we believe we would all like to uphold in making those decisions. They're simple and short and listed on the next slide. I would love your feedback on these as well. The first is, we want to be fair. We know that this crisis has affected every community in New York City, and it has affected some communities disproportionately. We know that Black and Latinx New Yorkers have been sick and are dying at greater rates. We also know that there has been a surge in attacks and discrimination on members of our Asian Pacific Island American community. These effects stem back to historical roots and are deep-seated. We want to craft a policy that takes those specific experiences in mind and is fair to all students and families and joins us together in solidarity with one another. Second, we want to be transparent. Part of the process that we are in tonight is for that purpose. We want to conduct this discussion openly with you. And when we come to a conclusion, we want that conclusion to be clear and transparent to you. And we want the process to be transparent as well. We've heard from many families that it's sometimes difficult to navigate, and we want to make the information easier to understand and clearer for families and students. And finally, we want to try to reduce the burdens. We know that this process can be stressful, and at this time when families are under so much stress, and so much trauma. We want to do what we can to make this process less stressful on families and children. So as we've traveled throughout the city, keeping those 3 principles in mind, we've heard ideas from families. And there is a range of opinion, no surprise, in New York City about how to tackle a complex issue. But it's been a rich set of discussions. On the next slide, you can see 4 ideas that we've heard most often from families, not the only ideas we've heard. And I want to be clear, we're not leaning toward any of them, but just to frame the discussion, want to raise them here so you have them as context. First, some families and some groups believe that given the crisis this year and the limited, the different information, the limited information we have, we should freeze screens for 1 year. In that case, offers would be driven by student choice. Some have said that we should use grades that students earned in 4th and 7th grade through the beginning of the crisis, through February 2020. Schools were giving grades up to that moment, and some have argued that we should use the grades that were given as we would have used final grades in a typical year. Others have said we should use last year's grades instead. So we should look at the final grades that a student earned in 3rd grade or the final grades that a student earned in 6th grade. And still others have said that we should use last year's test scores. The 3rd grade state test scores for middle school and the 6th grade state tests for high school. These are just a few ideas, and we'd be eager to hear if you have others or if you have opinions about these. As we have heard these ideas and thought about our principles of fairness and transparency and reducing stress, we did some research that we want to share with you tonight just about how some of these ideas would play out, and perhaps it will raise some issues that we should think about together. On the next slide, you can see what we've learned about using marking period grades. That is the grades that students have earned through February 15th. And what we saw when we looked at this is that students perform worse in general in marking periods compared to final grades. And that problem is worse for students that are high needs, that are facing other challenges. Students that qualify for free and reduced price lunch, students with disabilities, students in transitional housing, English language learners. For example, if you just think about low income students, if you look at final grades, this is on the bottom right of the slide, about 46% of the high performing 4th graders were low income. But if we were to use marking period grades above, only 30% of the highest performing 4th graders would be low income. So as we think about this option, we might want to consider how we can ensure that using marking period grades could be done in a way that's fair to that group. We should think about that together. There could be creative solutions to that, and we are trying to think of those as well. Similarly, on the next slide, if you look at last year's state tests, what we find is many students perform worse on 3rd and 6th grade tests than they do on 4th and 7th grade. It stands to reason, both because students improve over time and because students in 3rd grade are young and encountering standardized tests for the very first time. What we found is that 1 in 5 4th graders perform at least 1 level worse on 3rd grade state tests, and 1 in 6 7th graders perform at least 1 level worse on 6th grade state tests. And so again, if we look back at those state tests, we might want to consider how to make sure we're fair to those students who would otherwise improve over time and would have had a more competitive position as they're applying to selective schools. Our principle is, again, to try to be fair and transparent and to reduce stress. We want to make sure that the effects of this crisis do not hurt our students' chances to attend the school or program that would be the best fit for them. And so I open this up now to this discussion. On the next slide, you can see the questions that we'd like to ask. And we think about middle and high school differently. Those are very different periods in a child's life, and we should consider options for both. So in relation to both, we would ask, how should screened middle schools and screened high schools admit students this fall? Should we use grades? Should we use tests? And if so, how? Or do you have any other ideas about factors that should be brought into consideration or that we should not use? We really look forward to your feedback. If you look at the next slide, you can see that if after you speak tonight, or if you're unable to, there are lots of people here tonight, so if you're not able to, if you're not called, you can always email us at enrollmentfeedback@schools.nyc.gov. That's enrollmentfeedback@schools.nyc.gov. There it is. And we'll show that later in the program as well. But we are receiving a lot of great ideas and thoughts from all over the city and want to continue that as we navigate and try to craft the best policy we can in the coming in the coming period. Thank you very much.
So thank you for that great presentation, Josh. We truly appreciate it. I know everyone on the call appreciates and values the information that was shared. We just want to say that in addition to our deputy chancellors who are present with us and our participants who are present here with us, that we have CEC presidents from each of the districts in Queens. That's District 24, District 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. And we also have our presidents, council presidents from each of those districts who are present here with us this afternoon or this evening as well. As we go into giving each one of our CEC presidents and president council presidents an opportunity to share some feedback with us, I just wanted to acknowledge that they are all present here this evening. So we can start off, and I'll start it off in Queens South with our CEC president comments for, we have Dr. Natalie Bassoon. Is Dr. Natalie Bassoon here with us, CEC President Rep for District 27?
Good evening, everyone. I'm right over here.
Hi, how are you?
Good evening. So my name is Natalie Bassoon. I'm a member of CEC 27. We did reach out to all members of the council to give their opinion. Some were able to, some will not. Primary opinion here is myself and Ms. Elisa O'Shea. Removing the criteria for screened admissions application for middle and high school is not in the best interest of the students of District 27. It is unfair to those students and parents who exceeded the standards and strive for excellence based upon defined levels of academic achievement for specific schools. The timing of such major changes is extremely abrupt with no phase-in or transition period. Screened schools should remain similar rubrics to those in place previous to the pandemic, since not all schools have the same criteria. Adding teacher recommendations into existing rubrics to endorse students would be helpful. Our students know our students best. Our teachers know our students best. This would help families in our districts experiencing hardship. For middle school admissions, attendance and lateness should be considered on the application in 3rd grade and 4th grade up until the end of school in March, and a lesser weight given for remote learning periods after March. Standardized test scores for 3rd grade should be weighted with unit assessments from 4th grade. For high school admissions, attendance and lateness should still be considered on the application for 6th grade and 7th grade up until the pandemic, and a lesser weight for the remote learning period. Standardized test scores for 6th grade should be weighted with unit assessments from 7th grade. Special needs IEP student applications with demonstrated success for appropriate programs with accommodating classroom settings and services should remain the same percentage of weight as prior to the pandemic. I truly believe in equity for all. One size fits all is not the best approach for our district or our city. Students and families have worked hard for academic achievement. Students have worked hard for competitive test scores and grades. This should be aligned with proper academic placement. I propose a 70-30 split. 70% of the seats should be from the screen criteria with a 30% lottery. This should also be continued for 2 years, not only the 2021-2022 academic year, but the 2022-2023 academic year. There will be new challenges for our students to face when they return to school and new things to happen. Also, we have to keep our high school students competitive for college admission. So as in the presentation, it says we need to be fair. We really do need equity for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bassoon. We appreciate your feedback. My colleague.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce our president from the CEC of District 24, Mr. Phil Wong. Please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry. Yeah. Good evening, Deputy Chancellor, Acting Deputy Chancellor, and Executive Superintendent. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Phil Wong, the president of CEC 24. I would like to first start by quoting excerpts from CEC 24 Resolution number 138, which was passed unanimously by the entire CEC 24 board on its May 12 meeting. Whereas the new grading policies were not implemented with engagement with CEC 24. Whereas the outstanding work of District 24 students, teachers, administrators, and staff has already been recorded in academic year 2019 to 2020 up to the third marking period. And therefore, be it resolved that the New York City Department of Education must fully acknowledge the hard work as reflected in the existing grades and scores of all of District 24 students. Yesterday, Acting Deputy Chancellor Austin told the City Council regarding the grading reform that DOE collected feedback from CEC 24. Let me state on the record here that this is not true. Acting Deputy Chancellor Austin did not come to me or any member of the CEC 24 regarding feedback before the Chancellor's May 1st announcement. Regarding admissions to screen schools, CEC 24 is convinced that by removing the objective standards used by screen schools are unfair to students who have worked hard to get good grades and score well on state tests. Portfolios like grades are subjective. Students should not be judged by personal opinion of the admissions decision maker. With intensified racism in the schools and in the school system, it's more important than ever to not use subjective measures for admissions. Using them would hurt children's chances of applying to their desired schools. District 24 lies at the epicenter of this pandemic. Many parents lost their jobs. We want our children to have a shot at better life by having the opportunity to attend good schools. In summary, in consistency with the CEC 24 Resolution number 138, CEC 24 demands that screening schools remain in place for September 2020, and when it considers regarding admissions, the 3rd and 6th grades final grades be used when kids apply for middle school or high school, supplemented by 3rd and 6th grade state test scores. Thank you.
Thank you. Andre?
Yes. And now we would like to call upon our CEC president for District 28, Vijay Ramjatan. If Vijay could unmute himself. Do we have Vijay? So I will move on to District 29, Shines, our CEC president, Nicole Hammond.
Greetings. It's nice to be here tonight, Queens. Thank you, Dr. Spencer. CEC 29 and the community feels that, individual districts should be able to set their own admissions policies. And based on the majority of the feedback, we would not like to see an end to academically matched schools and programs. And we do not want the city to consider or impose a one-size-fits-all policy. And we want to be inclusive of all of the diverse learners. So CECs have filled out their forms completely and gave lots of feedback. And I am grateful this evening that the borough and our parents get to speak and share their concerns individually as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hammond. We appreciate your feedback, and it's always great to hear your voice. Thank you.
In District 25, we have CEC President Joe DiBenedetto.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Joseph DiBenedetto, the president of CEC for District 25. So we've discussed this with our council, and we, in all fairness, understand it's a temporary situation, and we really want to be fair to everyone because we understand that some students are affected more so than others during the pandemic. Therefore, with our criteria, I just want to comment that in our district, we don't have screened middle schools, but we do have students that go to screened middle schools in other districts. So our criteria that we discussed is the same for high schools and middle schools. And we're asking that the whole picture be looked at. So the actual grades from September through March, the test scores from the year prior, the attendance from the year prior up until the pandemic, and a possible essay where the students would have to basically present some a reason why they should be admitted to this particular school. And we also think that every school has some type of portfolio where there's quantitative and qualitative measurements on the students. So we feel that the whole thing should be looked at for the screen schools, just because it's temporary and just to be fair. And that is our opinion at this time.
Thank you. We appreciate your feedback. I would like to circle back to District 28. Our CEC President, Vijay Ramjatan, is here now. I would like to provide him the opportunity to speak and share feedback representing District 28. Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Vijay, CEC President of District 28. We as a CEC, we are thinking very thoroughly about this whole admission process, and we are feeling that whatever plan that's going to come in place in terms of admission policy should be a temporary one only for the next year. Our district parents are split in the middle about what should be considered, what should not be considered, but we are feeling very strongly that whatever admission policies that is going to be taken into consideration, it should be taken for only 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much.
I'd like to introduce our CEC President from District 26, Adriana Aviles. Adriana?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Mabel, for the introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you for this moment in time for us to express how we feel as a community in District 26. I'm the president of CEC 26, and on behalf of CEC 26, we want to ensure that our children have equity and standards for their academic performance. CEC 26 demands a continuation of screened admissions in both our GET program and high school admissions process. These are metrics that are available, such as state exams from the previous years, 3 marking period grades, and attendance records prior to the COVID remote learning period. We do believe that we should use the current state exams on file for admissions. We also suggest to consider grades prior to the remote learning period. Due to the lack of uniformity and consistency of the period of remote learning, we are asking not to take this period into consideration for these admission screens. Our students were fully engaged and in classrooms till March, which was the end of the 3rd marking period. Another consideration would be the evaluation of teacher assessments of their students. You would also be able to factor in attendance prior to COVID-19 if need be. These metrics are available to assess students fairly and equally prior to COVID-19. We are hearing a great deal about socioeconomic and demographics being used for metric weights. The New York City DOE needs to allocate additional funding for these students that are economically disadvantaged. We do not want one's race, gender, economic status, or their demographics to play a role in screened admissions. All children should have a fair opportunity and fair education to apply equally within a screened admission process and based on their merits. We want to prepare our children to face the future, which includes success in their endeavors. This is a dialogue that needs to continue, and DOE needs to continue the engagement process to all within our communities. CEC 26 has incredible families as well as incredible schools within our district. Our district team led by incredible superintendent, Danielle Junter, has always led the city to a high academic standard. We hope to continue the standard. Together is better, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Andre, I'm going to have one more CEC member, District 30, CEC President Deborah Alexander.
Good evening. I usually speak on my own behalf, but tonight I have the honor to speak on behalf of my council. Yesterday, based on community feedback and consultation, CEC 30 passed a resolution that calls on the DOE to give districts the autonomy to set their own policies and to retain the use of academic metrics for the 2020-2021 admission cycle. District 30 is the 2nd largest district in New York City. We should be given the respect offered to District 15 and others to craft an admissions policy that works for us. We demand equal treatment. Queens families' voices are being marginalized because they don't fit the narrative the DOE is pushing. Even here at this meeting, the framing of screen schools in the DOE's presentation is entirely negative and skewed. How about mentioning the legal right every child has to their appropriate education? That includes advanced learners. As a borough, Queens has overwhelmingly and forcefully told the DOE not to remove academic matching in admissions. Will the DOE hear but ignore the voices of the largest borough in the city? Hearing is a passive act. We don't want to be heard. We want and deserve to be respected and listened to when, as an individual district and an individual borough, we say no to the removal of academically matched schools. Another thing is that the DOE could very easily, you are the Department of Enrollment, you could have found all of the 4th and 7th grade parents, polled them since they are the ones that are purportedly only affected for 1 year. So I call on the DOE to ask 4th and 7th grade parents what they think about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your feedback. Now we're going to move into hearing from our council presidents. And we'd like to start with District 27, Mahalia Noble.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. District 27 President's Council recommends a lottery system for applicants where possible in order to give all applicants a fair shot at their first choice schools in both middle school and high school, because we know that some families have been more affected by this pandemic than others, and to ensure that students that are traditionally disadvantaged are given a fair chance to enter their desired program. Where a lottery is not possible, we think that schools that use exams and grades to screen students should consider using 3rd and 6th grade ELA and math exam scores to account for 50% weight, 4th and 7th grade final report cards to account for 30% weight, and to conduct student interviews to account for 20% to make the final decisions to admit students. Attendance should be eliminated for now. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. We greatly appreciate your feedback. Before we move on to introduce the next President Council President, I'd just like to acknowledge Tamara Foye is here with us for Citywide Council on Special Education. So we just like to acknowledge Tamara for joining us this evening. Welcome and thank you. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mabel, to introduce our next President Council President.
Tamara, would you like to speak? Foye?
Sorry, I'm here, not at the current moment, but I'm taking parent feedback and feedback from the President's Councils.
No problem. I just want to make sure. District 24, President's Council President, Maddie Gonzalez.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to give input and to have our voices be heard tonight. After speaking with several parents and educational advocates within our district, I heard the same thing over and over again. Many parents agree that using the state tests, even pre-pandemic, as part of the screening criteria is an inaccurate way to measure a student's ability to learn, whether they are mastering standards or measures a student's academic drive. If the previous year's state tests will be used, which we don't agree with, we must remember that there are parents who refuse the tests, and a rubric would have to be in place where these children or schools aren't going to be penalized. Since remote learning commenced, we realized that it is not a level playing field across our district or even our city, and we also understand that this method of learning doesn't work for everyone. At the end of the day, we must do what is right for all children. As a result, it is our recommendation that pre-pandemic 4th grade report card grades and 7th grade report card grades be used for screened middle school and high school admissions for the school year 2021 through 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your feedback. We appreciate it. We're going to move on to District 28, the President Council President for District 28, Shirley Aubin.
Good evening, all. My name is Shirley Aubin, and I'm co-president of District 28 President's Council and Queens Collegiate, a college board school PTA president. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak this evening. Regardless on how the admission policy shapes out to be, we have two main concerns. First, if there is screening, we would like the screening schools to be completely transparent on what they are asking for and what are their methods, such as submitting videos, interviews, grades. What are the criteria or formula that will be used? Which leads to our question. How will the DOE reach out to students who do not have access or means, whether it's due to lack of access to technology, non-English speaker, living in temporary housing, or dealing with trauma? And at this time, I would like to thank our District 28 Superintendent Dr. Tate, Queens High School Superintendent Juan Mendez, our District 28 FLC Sonia Rueda, Queens South High School Evelyn Ruiz, FLC, our District 28 parent leaders, QC family led by Principal Dubé, and our Queens Staten Island BB Mattenden, who helped us form Queens South Intra-District President's Council Working Group of District 27, 28, 29, and Queens High School's President's Council. Thank you for the wonderful teamwork and collaborations. Thank you to our essential workers and first responders. And I would like everyone to remember, we are living during unusual times, and addressing the social emotional needs are very important. Over 100 deaths in our nation, and over 18 New Yorkers died, and the majority in New York City. So our families are dealing with trauma. So remember, compassion and understanding goes a long way to support and heal one another. Because of the budget cuts, remember, it's more than ever to fill out our census. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your feedback.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce the President of District 25, President's Council, Christine Coniglio. My apologies for the pronunciation.
No, that was good. Coniglio. It's good. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We have gotten some feedback from our PTA and parents, and we feel at District 25 that the students should be acknowledged for all their hard work and achievements September through March before the pandemic. We also feel that most schools are giving grades, even though they're not going to be on the final report card. There are grades that they are putting into their giving grades, and those grades should also be considered maybe at a lesser value. But there are students that are really working hard with remote learning. We understand that there are students that are not doing well for personal reasons, and those personal individual cases should be taken into consideration, where maybe a portfolio of students' work. It is a unique time right now where we don't have the correct answer, but we want to make sure that everybody, every student gets the opportunity that they really can and gets acknowledged for the work that they're doing. Also, I've heard a lot about state tests from the previous grades. I just want to remind everybody that 6th grade is a transitional year, and most 6th grade students struggle with state tests, schoolwork. It's a transitional year, new school, new friends, etc. So that should be taken into consideration as well. And that's our feelings. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for your feedback. We greatly appreciate it. And last but definitely not least, District 29 shines, Ms. Cherie Gibson.
Thank you, Dr. Spencer. Good evening, Queens. I am Cherie Gibson, President of District 29's President's Council, President of PS360Q PTA, and a parent of a 4th grader. So this topic has direct personal impact for me. Our President's Council Board, in consultation with parents and parent leaders from our district, believe there is no one-size-fits-all criteria for admissions next year. Considering we have to manage a multitude of ripple effects from the COVID-19 pandemic. If screening must remain in place, we propose giving parents a choice in what metrics are utilized. We want to highlight that special emphasis on students with disabilities. We thank Chancellor Josh Wallach for providing the information this evening on giving us data and metrics. If we can have that shared more, that will also inform parents more, because we didn't have that before. And I think that might have changed some people's feelings learning about the grade differences. So if we can have that before, as well as to continue the conversations. We do appreciate the opportunity for our parents to be able to provide comment. And thank you to FACE reps and to our superintendents this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that feedback.
We can absolutely share that information so that you can bring it back to your community as well. I'll make sure to follow up. Thanks.
And I'd like to introduce our Parent President's Council President of District 26, Kathy Grosky.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Mabel. Thank you, Deputy Chancellors Wallach and Austin, Executive Superintendent Sardui and Spencer, for the opportunity to speak as a representative of the parents in District 26. I want to give a shout out to our outstanding Superintendent Danielle Junta, our Deputy Superintendent Dr. Tara Davidson, and their extraordinary district office team that has gotten us through these times. And we could not, parents of District 26 would not be able to do what we do without them. And we are very, very appreciative of their leadership. District 26 is a diverse and extremely high achieving district. Parents in our district cherish the academic opportunities provided by our fantastic public school system. It is more important than ever that the DOE stay the course and maintain its current screened admission policy to keep these opportunities fair and accessible. Students should be rewarded for their effort and success with the opportunity to enter a top public high school or middle school. Using grades from the first half of this school year, combined with final grades from last school year and state test scores from last school year, is a solution that is fair and sensible. We all work so hard for our children, and we need an admissions process that introduces as little uncertainty and chaos as possible at this unimaginable moment. Finally, I want to also thank everyone on this call for your commitment to all of our children. This call is clearly a testament to your dedication, and it is a great, great honor to be included. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your words. District 30, Parents President's Council President. Is someone here representing? I don't have the name in front of me, but I want to make sure that if someone is representing District 30, Parents President's Council, that we give you the floor. Okay, so I'm going to now introduce our Deputy Chancellor, Adrian Austin, to continue with the program.
Thank you, Executive Superintendent Sardui. Thank you, Executive Superintendent Spencer, for allowing all of our parent leaders that opportunity to share their thoughts with us. Before we transition to the public comment period, I know Deborah Dillingham, who is the Queensborough appointee to the PEP, is here. I don't know if she wants to unmute herself and make a quick comment.
Sure. Hi, everyone. What an informative evening. Thank you so much. I do want to thank the entire DOE for engaging our community this evening. And from our discussions in the last couple of weeks at the borough level, we know that it is clear that parents from all sectors and advocacy groups want to offer input, and tonight is a fantastic start. Thanks to all of you, in particular the executive superintendents, for ensuring that the folks came out tonight, and obviously you spoke with them, so thank you so much. We've already heard that an admissions policy that includes the elimination of screens would be met with opposition from many parents in our borough. And due to the severe budget cuts, there is no substantial and immediate plan to develop new schools to meet the needs of all of the children in Queens. Thus, Queens continues to see quality seats elsewhere, and admission screens and district preference definitely affect where the students in our school districts will go next year. All parents in Queens, we know, are seeking a high quality education for their children, and enrichment is really at the core of the mission and vision. So while parents may differ in their thinking of exact admissions criteria, we know that what they're seeking is equity and access. And that may mean something a little bit different to every family in Queens. But ultimately, we are all seeking a good education. We know that Queens hasn't gotten its fair share on space, and that's why I think you will hear from many to express that they leave our districts because there are not necessarily enough seats for them here. And while we have absolutely terrific schools, we just need more seats. So with that, I want to turn it over to comment. And I just want to thank Josh for your presentation. It was very transparent, and I really think it simplified for everybody the crux of the situation. And I think it's a great starting point. Thank you, Adrian, for including me tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. We also have one other parent leader that we want to hear from before we transition to public comment. Stephanie Ellis-Gibbs, the Queens High School Council representative. If you're here, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Ms. Austin. What's more New York than a New York pizza pie sliced by Ace, eaten by New Yorkers, mostly of all cultures? We parents, in many ways, are trying to fit a new generation into old ways in a time when we need innovation the most. The admissions inclusion of all students and students of all abilities is not about cultural bias in any way. It's more about raw talent and overlooked potential versus regurgitated years of individual and/or community test prep. Instead of rehashing this in a borough that is diverse as Queens, we propose that now and in the future, we conduct admissions like the 8 slices of a piece of pie. So here's a proposal that we're calling an intake of 8s, whereby schools intake an 8th of students who choose to showcase grades, an 8th who choose to showcase test scores, taking an 8th who choose to showcase their innovation, business ideas, solutions, and handmade crafts and designs, taking an 8th who choose portfolios of written work, whether it be written classwork, original compositions of music scores, music lyrics, films, plays, poetry, or short stories. Taking an 8th who choose completing a project of choice in human services or a project in science or in math. Taking an 8th who choose to showcase visual or graphic arts and even choreographers. Taking an 8th of technology innovators. And admitting an 8th of those who have talents that we adults have never even considered. We can see now more than ever that this city and this world needs scientists, artists, the mathematicians, the entrepreneurs, the writers, the clerks, the problem solvers, the makers, and the good test takers alike. Thank you. This is Stephanie Ellis Gibbs, Vice President of Queens High School President's Council and PTA President of Eagle Academy for Young Men of Queens.
Thank you. And thank you everyone who shared your comments with us so far. I want to now transition to the public comment period. We've taken a list of everyone who signed up to speak, and we've created a random speaking order giving priority to Queens residents and those here who require Spanish, Mandarin, or Korean interpretation. The speaking order of the next 5 people to speak will be on the screen. I will call your name and you will be unmuted. Everyone has 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds, and you will see a timer on your screen to reflect how much time you have left to speak. If you do not get an opportunity to speak tonight and you have more feedback, please feel free to email your thoughts to enrollmentfeedback@schools.nyc.gov. Again, enrollmentfeedback@schools.nyc.gov. We also just want to remind everyone to please bear with us when it comes to making sure we have language access. There is a pause that happens as interpretation happens over the phone. And so our interpreters have to be able to hear the speaker's questions and then interpret that for us. And it's going to require a little bit of a delay, but please bear with us because we want to make sure we get those questions and comments in. So with that, we will now transition. If you look on the screen, there are some instructions just to give you an idea of how this is going to work. Make sure you're raising your hand if you see your name on the screen so we can unmute you. When I call your name, please unmute yourself. The first speaker for tonight will be Ellie Barron. Ellie Barron, please unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Ellie and I go to school at Bard High School, Early College, Queens. And I'd like to advocate for 2 things tonight. The first, I'd like to advocate for the extension of the period of admissions as a whole. I think that now more than ever, students need to have as much time as possible to learn about the admission system and to really find a school that's the best fit for them. And second, I think that every high school needs to have a priority for students on free and reduced price lunch. And as we can see by the pandemic, low income students are really affected the most by it. And so we really need to ensure that they are that they have seats at schools all across the city, including highly selective schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to celebrate that we have students with us tonight. And so that's going to be some of our first speakers. It takes a lot of courage to come forth on a public platform. We have lots of people. I don't want to intimidate the kids, so I won't say how many. But I want to congratulate you for stepping up and being part of this conversation. With that, the next speaker is Amanda Cheung. Amanda Cheung, if you can please unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. This is Amanda Cheung. I'm an educator at District 30, and I'm here to advocate for the end of the use of exclusionary admission screens at the middle and high school level next year. Even before this crisis, we have known that grades, attendance, and test scores are inadequate measures of a student's potential. Rather, they are actually more reliable measures of a student's access to resources and level of income, which ends up breaking down along racial lines in our city and our society. As Deputy Chancellor Wallach acknowledged, screens have also turned admissions into a burdensome, complex, and stressful process for families of all backgrounds. It would be unjust to continue the use of screens for admissions when now more than ever, a high-quality education is a right for all students. I propose for next year and beyond, allowing for student choice through admissions by lottery, with priority seats to each district's multilingual learners, low-income students, and students in transitional housing. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. The next person we're going to call on is Deanna Jennings. Deanna Jennings, please unmute yourself. Deanna Jennings. If you're here under a different name, please raise your hand so that we can find you and unmute you.
Hi, now y'all, could y'all hear me?
Yes.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Deanna Jennings. I'm the Title I chairperson at Eagle Academy, School for Young Men in Queens. I believe that this system is kind of set up where it's not fair to everybody. So I sincerely hope that we take the opinions and the information given by our principals, our leaders that supports us in our community, especially as it pertains to District 29 and District 28, and take their guidance and their instructions to help and support our kids, because I don't believe there's one size fit all. And I don't think it's fair that kids that worked hard all this time to achieve a goal that didn't, and not now because of the grading system, because of the pandemic, as no result of their own, they're gonna have to suffer for it. Thank you. That's all I have to say at this time.
Thank you. We will now hear from Deborah Mishlowitz.
Huh? Oh, I ain't want to say nothing. There was nothing for me to say.
Ms. Jennings, you can mute yourself, and if Deborah Mishlowitz could unmute yourself. Okay, last call for Deborah Mishlowitz. Okay, I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker, who's a student. I know William Yip, I've seen you at City Council hearings testify. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say to us tonight. William, if you can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. Good evening. My name is William Deep, and I am a high school student living in Woodside, Queens. I am also a member of Teens Take Charge. High school admission screens prevent low-income students of color from attending the schools they want to attend because of the backgrounds they come from. Many of our students come from socioeconomically unstable households and under-resourced and underfunded middle schools. With the addition of COVID-19, too many of our students are facing the negative consequences of the virus. Many of us have to help out our families during this time. As a result, our academics reflect the struggles many of us are facing. Many of the other audience members say that we need to reward our quote-unquote hardworking students who deserve a high-quality education. The removal of admission screens will not undermine the students who quote-unquote work hard. They still have the chance to attend our city's most resourced schools. However, the elimination of admission screens is the only way we can make sure that our students are treated fairly, regardless of their backgrounds. We cannot continue to filter students out based on numbers. After all, screens should be used to block bugs from our home, not students from the education we all deserve. So unless you want to consider students quote unquote bugs, then we need to eliminate admission screens right now to make our education admissions system equitable to all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us and for providing that comment to us. We will now hear from Melissa Cabrera-Brojan. If you can unmute yourself, please. Melissa Cabrera-Brojan. Okay, last call for Melissa Cabrera-Brojan. Brojan or Brojan. Okay, we're going to move to the next person on the list, Evelyn Manziello. If you're here with us, please unmute yourself, Evelyn Manziello. Again, if you see your name on this list, please raise your hand so that we can identify you and make sure that you're unmuted.
Hello.
Hi, thank you.
I had two quick questions. Is there a time frame for when you are going to decide what criteria will be used for admissions? And also, will we have a longer time to fill out the form for which high schools we want to go to, since we were not able to visit that many this year?
Thank you for those questions. I'm here with my colleague, Deputy Chancellor Wallach. I don't know if you would like to take those questions.
Absolutely. So in answer to your first question, we do not have a precise time frame for the decision. We're trying to balance two competing goals. One is many families are asking us for clarity as quickly as possible. But on the other hand, we want to take the time to listen and learn from communities around New York City before we make an important decision like this one. So we will be back soon and let you know the time frame, but we still have some community engagement left to do, and we'll keep you posted as we go. In answer to your second question, we have not set the exact schedule for admissions next year. The challenge for us again is to try to, we have admissions to do for high school, middle school, kindergarten, and pre-K, and now 3K. And we need to make them, we need to get through them all during the year, but I hear the point that you want more time, and we'll take that under consideration and come back to you as well on that. Appreciate the feedback.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chancellor Wallach. We're now going to move to the next name on the list, Syed Mahmood. If you're here with us, please unmute yourself, Syed Mahmood. If you're here with us, please, again, raise your hand in the screen so we can identify you. Last call for Syed Mahmood. Okay, moving to the next name on the list, Lisa DeLange. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Lisa.
Oh, there. Hi, how are you doing? Thank you for including the parents in this discussion and for setting guiding principles that recognize and try to neutralize the historic bias that exists in public education. I think that a lottery seems the most fair, since access to resources during the pause and the decontextualized learning of the state tests both discriminate between those who have and have not. The eighths idea was also wonderfully creative. I think a narrative letter for each student would also help students find schools. And if the screening is to be continued, please ensure that the students who have opted out of the state tests have an equitable equivalent if the screening is part of the selection process. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. We will now hear from Muhammad Islam. If you're with us, please unmute yourself, Muhammad Islam. Last call, Muhammad Islam. Okay, we're gonna move to the next name on our list, which is a student. We're always very happy to hear from our students. Thank you for joining us. Sashi Osorio.
Hi, my name is Sashi. Yes. Hi, my name is Sashi and I'm a 7th grader at Lewis Armstrong Middle School. Today I'm speaking in favor of keeping screens for at least this next year. Screens help assess a student's academic abilities, and this is very important when deciding what is the best way for a student to learn and how that learning experience can be enhanced and tailored to their individual needs. Oftentimes I get frustrated when I feel the teaching process of a topic is prolonged or new content is minimal. I understand this may be what others need to learn a topic thoroughly and comprehend it completely. However, this is not the case for me, as well as many other of my friends and peers. Feeling like your educational needs do not matter, although at no fault to your teachers, is rather discouraging. These feelings have many times been partially alleviated by the knowledge that I would be able to apply to specialized and screened high schools in 8th grade. I have long fantasized about attending a screened school where my academic needs are met and I can flourish alongside others who share my past discontent. Myself, as well as my peers around the city, have diligently worked to meet requirements and criteria during our 7th grade year, sacrificing many other opportunities to do so, all in the hope that we could attend the high school of our choice. And now, in the midst of a pandemic that has taken so many things away from us and diminished our social, emotional health and well-being at a critical time in our development, New York City officials want to take this hope away from us too. I understand the current system has flaws, but do not pull the rug out from under us. Do not go back on your promises. What does that show the youth of NYC? Please acknowledge and count our hard work, sacrifice, and compliance. Do we not deserve a chance to learn at our own pace? Do we not deserve a chance to thrive? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that heartfelt comment, Sashi. We are now going to move to our Spanish room. We're going to now take the next 5 callers and people who've joined us who are in need of Spanish interpretation. And so it's going to take a little bit of time for us to be able to do that. Our Spanish interpreter is now getting the question. He's going to then read that to us in Spanish and then in English. It's going to take a little bit of time, so please bear with us and be patient. A little bit of feedback happening. Erilyn Pacheco is our first speaker. Erilyn Pacheco. Okay, it sounds like there are some challenges there. We're going to move on to Roberto Perez. Roberto Perez.
El señor Roberto Pérez, desbloquee su teléfono.
Okay, we're going to now call on Andrea Quiroz, and the next speaker up is Claudia Lopez. So Andrea Quiroz is first, and then Claudia Lopez.
Andrea Quiroz, por favor, desbloquee su teléfono para que pueda darme su comentario.
Okay, we're now going to move to our Mandarin line. We have Kevin Ren speaking next. We will now hear from Kevin Ren in the Mandarin room. Hi, Kiki, if you can unmute yourself.
This is the Mandarin interpreter. This is the Mandarin interpreter. I'm going to say the comments in Mandarin and then in English. 我是 Kevin 的家长，我很高兴我的学生，我的孩子被231初中录取了，希望他可以更加好的可以去学习，得到好的教育。I am a parent of my son Kevin, and I'm so happy that he's admitted in school 231, and I hope that he will continue to receive good education. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. Kiki, I'm going to read 3 names in a row so that you're prepared for the next 3 speakers. The first is Mix Chen, the second is Jennifer, and the third is John Lee. So if we can have those speakers in that order. Press *9 to raise your hand if you're on via phone, if you've called into the line and you are Kevin Ren, I'm sorry, Kevin Ren just spoke, Mix Chen, Jennifer, or John Lee. Okay, we're now going to move on to other names on the list. The next name we're calling to speak is James Pressey. James Pressey, if you're with us, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? My name is James Pressey. I'm the Family Leadership Coordinator for District 29. My comment really around enrollment is just looking for the guidance for this new year, and I hear a lot of conversation about the enrollment process and the screening process. And based on some of the comments I heard, just want to clarify about using the state test as a criteria for the enrollment process. So that was just my comment about the use of the state test, being that some students did not take the state test in the past, or they opt out of the state test. How is that going to look, and how's that going to work going forward? Thank you for the opportunity to share my comment tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm going to actually turn it over to Deputy Chancellor Wong just to address that issue with opt-out and how that works.
Thanks very much. In different schools handle that differently. Some schools use the grades to fill in for those missing state test scores. That is a common approach. And others factor in other measures. And I think what we're faced with this year, of course, is a year in which no students will be taking the state tests. And so that is the unique challenge that we face as a result of this crisis. But if you want more detail about how specific schools handle that, if a student opted out of state tests, happy to provide that. And you can email us at enrollmentfeedback@schools.nyc.gov, and we'll get back to you with that information.
Thank you very much for that. We're now going to go back to the Mandarin room. Kiki, we have someone who has a phone number ending 8236 who signed up to speak. 8236. If that person could speak and we can hear that comment interpreted.
This is the Mandarin interpreter. I'm going to say the comments in Mandarin, then in English. So I have a question. My son, he's an immigrant. He moved to here when he was in 5th grade, and he took the Regents and the test in 6th grade. And I think that it would be unfair to use the test score from last year. Right now he's in 7th grade. So I think it's unfair to use the grade from previous year because he just moved to this country and was not performing as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. We will now hear from Frentre Jones. If you can unmute yourself, Frentre Jones. Last call for Frentre Jones. Okay, we will now hear from Jonathan Bonanno.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
I just want to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this discussion. I think it's incredibly important for both parents and students to be able to voice their opinions. I think there are valid opinions on both sides. I wholeheartedly agree as a parent of a child who's gifted and talented who is working incredibly hard now, offline and online, as well as back when in school, to be given the opportunity to benefit from their hard work. Also, having come from a disenfranchised youth in my past, understand the inequalities, economic and whatnot that do impact. So I think there should be concessions made there as well. I don't think it's fair to take it one way or the other. I think that all sides should be represented and given an opportunity. I don't think it's fair to go full lottery, and I don't think it's fair to go full screening, but both sides make valid points and should be given the opportunity to benefit. In reality, all of our schools should be better funded and better set up so that we don't have this problem, and it doesn't matter which school our kids go to, they'll still get the same quality education that they all deserve.
Thank you very much for that comment. We are now going to go to the next caller on the list, David Wong. You're with us, please unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. Deputy Chancellor Wallach, Deputy Chancellor Austin, and Executive Superintendents Dewey and Spencer. I appreciate the time and effort you're now taking today to engage with us. I don't believe the recent changes to the grading policy was transparent and is not reflective of all stakeholders' wishes, because we cannot change the new grading policy that was enacted. Try to figure out a way to fairly and equitably decide by what measure to admit students to screen schools in our district. However, removing all metrics in admissions to screen schools is a non-starter. At a minimum, we should include pre-COVID-19 scores, which includes the previous year's state exam results, as well as the first 3 marking periods of this year's grades. If you do not include these scores, you will not honor the hard work and discipline our students and teachers contributed to attain these results. These grades and scores were entered prior to any disadvantages that the COVID-19 exposed and represent the fairest measure. I want to thank our superintendent, Junta, as well as our FACE liaison, Deanna. Thank you very much to all who's helped us in trying to achieve the fairest admissions, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for providing that comment. We will now hear from the next person on the list, Crystal Feliciano. We're going to go quickly through the next few names because we don't actually see the people here in the room, but I want to honor that they've signed up if they are here. Crystal Feliciano. Okay, we will move to Nuala O'Doherty Naranjo. If you're here, please unmute yourself. And we will now move to Mark Beck. If you're here, please unmute yourself. And we will now hear from Manmeet Kawar. Manmeet Kawar, if you can please unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking as a student from District 26 as a 7th grader attending Irwin Altman Middle School 172. Hearing comments from parents from different boroughs, they had mentioned a couple of ideas which included using marking period grades for the admissions process. The 2 marking period grades that should be taken into consideration as to admitting students are the 3rd and 4th, as many students have worked very hard to achieve these grades. Many students have worked very hard to improve and match the criteria of certain screen schools. However, taking into consideration of the circumstance, I do understand that many families are experiencing many harsh conditions. Though I do very much think that the 3rd marking period is very beneficial for many students to get admitted into these schools, as it is towards the end of the year, which can be considered as our final grades. Additionally, getting rid of the screened admissions process is not a good idea, as I do understand that some students cannot afford certain tutoring or additional help for exams or tests. It would be unfair to let students who do not meet certain standards to just get admitted to schools that they have not worked as to match the criteria for. As I mentioned, there are many students that have worked hard to get to these standards, in which this idea is unfair. Thank you for your time and have a good day.
Thank you, Manmeet. Very well said. We will now hear from the next person on the list, Joanna Silverio. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Joanna Silverio. Last call for Joanna Silverio. Okay, we will now move to the next person on the list, Rihanna Akhter.
Go ahead, talk. Yes, hi, how are you?
Hi, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. How are you doing?
Please share with us your comment.
Yeah, I have a question. I applied for my daughter, but the first time they say she's waiting list. But really, I want to she get it in there. I have another daughter. She's going to 7th grade in September. So I want to my little one to do it going to 5th grade. So I am to apply again, then she can get in.
Do you have any thoughts you'd like to share with us on admissions and what you think we should be looking to for criteria for admissions in 2021, 2022 year?
Yeah, school year is 2021.
Okay, I'm going to ask our Deputy Chancellor Wally to chime in with his answers there.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're asking about a student, your child who's on a waiting list, and great. So we can help with that. You can try to go to the My School's website to see the position on the wait list. If you're having trouble, on that website, just call 311 and ask for help with enrollment, and they will direct you to somebody tomorrow during the day to help you with that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. And we will next person.
Okay, nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you as well. The next person on the list is Lisa George. If you can unmute yourself, please. Lisa George. Okay, last call. Please unmute yourself, Lisa George. Okay, we will now hear from Julia Ramache. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. Julia Ramache. It looks like someone who previously was called may now be available. Nuala O'Doherty. Are you here with us now? Can you unmute yourself? Nuala O'Doherty. Okay, moving now to the next name on the list. Nellie Sorto. Nellie Sorto. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Nellie Sorto. Okay, next, Jonathan Greenberg. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Jonathan Greenberg.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say quickly on the record that at least I'm a CEC member in District 30. I'm speaking for myself and not for the CEC, but I do want to say that the statement from our CEC, while it may represent the CEC members themselves, does not represent the parents and community members in our district, many of whom are very concerned about the equity of maintaining screens, especially at this time. And I actually want to read a statement from my 5th grader. He says, I'm Ellis, that's my son, a 5th grader at PS 212. I do not see how the Department of Education can use a 3rd grader's grades or test scores. 4th grade is already a long enough stretch from when the students will actually be going to middle school. The 3rd grade is much too far. I think that just for any years in which COVID-19 is affecting the school system in this way, screens should be taken away completely. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that feedback. We will now hear from Helen Koo. Helen Koo, if you're with us, please unmute yourself. Okay, we'll now move to Edna Figueroa. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Last call, Edna Figueroa. Okay, Marco Quintero. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Marco Quintero. We'll move to the next name on the list, Ashley Zhu. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Ashley Zhu. Moving now to Natalka Romeliotis.
Yes, hi, I'm a parent of a 4th grade student, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm concerned about the implication this has for screen schools. I think screen schools serve a really important role in our educational system. And I think when we talk about equity versus equality, when we talk about equity, we're talking about providing each student what he or she needs to be successful. And that means providing exceptional students with the opportunity to really extend their academic abilities. Those students need more rigor. They need compacted curriculums. They need faster pace. And screen schools provide that for those types of students. So can all kids run? Yes, all kids can run. Can all kids run? Can they all be Olympic runners? No, they can't. So identifying exceptional students is an important role that the education system needs to play. And New York City has a moral obligation to do that for students. I also think that, that if you're not seeing diversity, then there's another issue that needs to be addressed there, that the diversity should be seen in these schools. And screening, you know, look at the screens, look at how they're accepting students to try to fix that problem.
Thank you very much for that comment. We're now going to move to the next speaker, Dolores Balboa. If you're with us, please unmute yourself, Dolores Balboa. Dolores Balboa. Remember, if you see your name on the list, please raise your hand so that we can start the process of making sure you're unmuted, and then unmute yourself when your name is called. Dolores Balboa, last call. Okay, we will now hear from Stephanie Gravesand. Stephanie Gravesand. Moving to Todd Friedman. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Todd Friedman. Moving now to Amy Eisman. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Amy Eisman. Okay, moving to Carolina Gill. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Carolina Gill.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for hosting this parent engagement. My name is Carolina and I am a parent of a 7th grader. I'd like to begin by stating that more parent engagement is needed. This forum is only given, sorry, I was running in. This forum is only giving parents and students about an hour to speak. CEC members and president councils have a direct line to FACE and DOE. So I do think that more time should be allotted for parents to speak. I think a great way to get feedback would be for a survey to be sent out to all 4th and 7th grade parents so that they can express their opinions. I believe screen programs should stay in place. There should be changes. I think grades should be looked at for the 1st and 2nd marking period of the current year, meaning 7th grade now and 4th grade for the kids that will be applying next year for middle school. I don't believe a lottery would be a fair option for all the kids that have worked really hard and that knew the 7th grade was the grade that was needed. Test scores, state test scores, I don't think that they should be an indicator and should not be utilized. And I think, like I said, I think more time should be allotted for parents to speak and more engagement sessions should be had where parents can express. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment. We are now going to move to the next person on the list, Alexia Dovas. If you're with us, please unmute yourself, Alexia Dovas. Okay, we're going to now move to Cassandra Louie.
Good evening. Thank you very much for hosting tonight's event. I'm a parent, I'm an elementary school student, and the proud product of the New York City public school system. And I bring to you a lot of the thoughts about the parents that I represent in my school, my peers. Our primary issue tonight is discussing the admissions policy for the incoming 6th and 9th graders for 2021 September. These are our current 4th and 7th grade students. While we have explored some other issues here tonight, I want you to remember that all students come to education today with known expectations, and they work extremely hard towards those expectations. Radically changing the terms at this point for them would be highly inequitable. It would mean chasing a moving target. So perhaps a thoughtful combination of objective assessments, perhaps by way of state exams, and marking period grades indicative of their actual ability to learn would take into consideration the desires of the many as displayed in an earlier presentation by Deputy Chancellor Wallach. And I thank you very much for capturing those ideas. Should there be a dialogue about admissions and even perhaps the overall quality of education at every school in the system? Perhaps at some point later, because the trajectory for that process is not measured in weeks. And changes to that process would require a hard pivot for the current students to even have a slim chance to achieve. So the topic of today is admissions for 2021. Please do not deviate hard from the current standards. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that comment. We're now going to move to Carla Palacios. Carla Palacios, if you're with us, please unmute yourself.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, so I'm a mother of a fourth grader who's in special education. And mostly mine is just a question. It's just that I'm worried about how he's gonna be graded throughout right now, finishing of the school year. It's very difficult with him because he has certain classes like speech, OT, others physical therapy. He has all that through the remote system. But are they going to grade him throughout all his work starting from September also? Or it's also going to be, like you said from the beginning, from September to March? And how his performance is doing now that he's doing so good. He's doing his work from home, but at the same time, it's not the same as being in a classroom that he has fully the 100% access to a teacher to be on top of him, which we are trying to do from here, from home, but it's a little difficult. Will this affect his grade and passing it on to 5th grade? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. There's been recently released a grading policy. I'm going to turn it over to see if Deputy Chancellor Wallach wants to address some of those issues.
I can try. I think it might be better. I don't know if one of our, I couldn't catch the district, but if the executive superintendent who is closer to the work on grading and promotion than I am wants to step in, I don't want to speak where I don't have as good knowledge as they do. Mabel or Andre, are you here?
Yes, I'm still here. Can I get a repeat of the question?
Yes, this person has a 4th grader with an IEP, a student with disabilities, and wants to know how grading will be handled for that student during the remainder of the year, and whether the struggles that they're having with remote instruction could affect promotion for that child.
So I can jump in and give some general information around that, and if Mabel wants to chime in and give additional information. What has happened with the grading policy, we're still taking in a preponderance of student outcomes. So looking at what students have done from the beginning of the year in September, all the way through this point, even during the remote learning experience that they're engaged in, using that data to determine holistically how well the student is performing. If a student is not passing, no student is going to get a non-passing grade. The student will receive a marking period of NX, which pretty much means that the student's work is still in progress for them receiving a grade. And the student will be asked to attend summer school and provided additional intervention support while attending summer school. And at the end of summer school, all of the data from summer school all the way back to September will be reviewed to make a determination as to the progress that the student has made, and then the student will move forward in the next grade or if the student is in jeopardy of not moving forward in the next grade, that will be communicated to the parent and the student. Mabel, I don't know if you wanted to add something else to that or not.
Yes, for that parent, and I don't know what district she's on, so please feel free to leave us your district and call us via your principal. The parent coordinator or the principal can help you and your fourth grader. The IEP will drive how we support your child if he or she is struggling. So we'll take in consideration the IEP goals of the individual child, as well as the work, as my colleague said, for the year. And then he'll receive an N grade if he has not met the standards, and he is welcome to, or she, to go to summer school if the parent would like. If remote learning is not working for your child, we really need to communicate with the principal and the teacher so that way we can support you.
Thank you so much to our executive superintendents for providing an answer to those really great questions. I'm going to go to the next speaker on the list, Kate Menken. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Kate Menken. Moving to the next name on the list, Frances Kweller. If you're with us, please unmute yourself. Frances Kweller.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Frances Kweller. I'm a parent, I'm a mother, I have 2 young kids. I'm a business owner, I happen to run a tutoring center, and I'm a child of immigrants. And I wanna say it will just be an incredible shame if marking period 1 and marking period 2 grades from September, October, November, December, January, February, and March of 2020 do not count towards admissions. It is heartbreaking to watch and hear children studying, suffering, sacrificing sports and activities if their grades do not count by no fault of their own. I understand the system is not perfect. I am a child of immigrants myself, and today I am a lawyer, I am a mother with 2 kids, I am a business owner, I run a tutoring center with heart. And to see children just completely disengaged right now, feeling helpless that their 4th and 7th grades will not count by no fault of their own. Please consider, what are we teaching our children when September to March will not count towards admissions? It just has to count. And I just want to encourage the panel. I think it is amazing that you are hosting this panel, and it's very helpful, and I publicized it on my end. Thank you for having this, but please, from September to March, these kids who worked and studied and sacrificed for years, you don't just suddenly have a 98 average in 7th grade. I grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment. My parents were immigrants. Today, thank God, I have a very different circumstance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're coming to time, so I'm going to move very quickly. Esther Sung, if you're with us, please unmute yourself. Esther Sung. Okay, moving to Ebony Council. If you're with us, please unmute yourself, Ebony Council. Next, Alicia Weiner.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for hosting this event. I've been attending many of the public discussions, and one of the things that I have noticed is that when I go back to my CEC, I'm in District 26, I'm a president out of PS 46, it feels like we're not being heard, or it's being said that our feelings are being taken into account, but then I go to a more local meeting and it feels like we weren't consulted. So I just want to make sure that we are very purposefully being included in the conversation. In addition, I have a son that has an IEP that is autistic, and while we're talking about high achieving children, there are high achieving children with IEPs, And sometimes we tend to, as parents, rely a little more heavily on the objective measurements that happen because it feels like a way that our student can't be excluded. We can say, here, this is the 4 he's earned on a state test. And because he has accommodations, you can't push him aside. So I just hope that in all this, we're also thinking about our IEP students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for one more speaker. So we'll go quickly down the list. Eileen Parada. Okay, and now we'll move to the Honorable Stacy Pfeffer Amato, if you're with us, Assembly Member Amato. Okay, we're going to move to Jeremiah O'Shea, if you're with us.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah O'Shea, and I'm an IEP student who currently attends Scholars Academy Middle School. I've had a great experience learning and growing over the last 3 years. I also applied for a screened high school, and I'm starting there in September. In my opinion, admissions for this year should be based upon combined final grades from last year and current marking period grades from this year, test scores from last year, attendance prior to our school's closing, remote learning participation, in-person interviews, and teacher recommendations. I understand there are people who come from disadvantaged households. However, academic achievement and merit are based upon hard work, and everyone has an opportunity to apply themselves in school. As it is not fair to the students who exceeded standards and worked very hard to use a lottery based upon zip code, race, and income. The academic work in my school is advanced, and if students aren't ready for the math, for example, it will be really hard to keep up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us and for sharing your feedback with us. It's always good to hear from our students. I think that's a great way to close us out, is by hearing from our students, because obviously they have the biggest stake in this. This is their future we're talking about. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Deputy Chancellor Wallach and our executive superintendents to close us out. Thank you everyone for your comments and for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much. And thank you again to the students and families and community leaders who shared such deeply held beliefs and such nuanced thinking with us tonight. It's really helpful to discuss this with you and learn from you. I think in trying to sum up some of what we heard, and there was such a richness of opinion and thought, it's hard to do. I would just say that some themes that came out, I think there was just a broad acknowledgement, first of all and foremost, of the awareness and recognition that this crisis has affected all of us, but has affected families and students differently. So many of our students have lost loved ones or are caring for other family members in the wake of the sickness or death. And that's a burden that they carry. And what I heard tonight from so many of you was such empathy and solidarity with one another as we make it through this crisis. And it's just one of the moving and inspiring things about being with you in this moment. So thank you for that. I think we also recognize together that this crisis will force some change. And we're bound together to determine what the best way to make that change will be. I think the last theme is the toughest one, which is that I think all of us want to find a fair way to honor the voice of our students and their choices and help all of our students find the school that will be the best fit for them. But we differ on what we believe would be the fairest way to do that. Many of us called for multiple measures. That was a common theme among many. Some thought we should use the best information we have in scores and grades. Others think that we should use other measures such as interviews or recommendations, and still others said that we should use a lottery at this moment. So we won't all agree on what is fairest, but I do believe that by hearing all of you and learning from all of you, it gives us the best chance with your good thinking to craft a policy that incorporates the best of all the suggestions we heard. Tonight we listened, we did our best to learn. We know we have more to do, and we do approach this with humility, and we appreciate you because you've given us, again, the best chance to make a wise decision. Our commitment to you is that when we do make a decision, we'll explain what it is, but also why we made the choices we did and how we arrived at them, given your feedback. And that is the way we'll try to live up to our value of transparency. I know many of you wanted to speak, and we couldn't incorporate everybody tonight, so I do hope you'll take us up on writing to enrollmentfeedback@schools.nyc.gov. We are reading all the emails that come in carefully and trying to learn, again, the best ideas from around the city on how to tackle this really important issue. And I just want to say thank you again, and I hope you and your families are safe and well, and appreciate, again, the time and thought you put into the participation tonight. Thank you.
Parents from Queens, thank you so much for your commitment. We've learned so much from each and every one of you, so many different opinions. We will make up decisions in a fair way for all, and we will be transparent in the decisions we make. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for listening to our great students who came on board. Thank you to the parent leaders, and we look forward to our continuous dialogue.
So I'd like to end us and just say thank you, Queens. It's just a pleasure to serve. And so I really appreciate serving here in the best borough of New York City, and that's Queens, without a doubt. So thank you to our Deputy Chancellor Wallach for the great presentation and the information. Thank you to our Deputy Chancellor Austin for moderating us and getting us through this process. We greatly appreciate it, and to both of the teams that are very supportive of making this happen. And most importantly, thank you to all of our parents, our community members, and our scholars who articulated themselves so well in their messaging and their delivery. And we just want you to know that we are listening, and we are also asking you to continue to hold us accountable to listening to what you have to share with us. And I would be absolutely remiss. This is nothing against Queens North, because I love you guys too, but shout out to all of Queens South in the house. And thank you so very much for joining us. I see all of the waves and all of that. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We want to say to all, please continue to be safe. Please continue to do what you need to do in the best interest of your family, because no matter what anyone else in our country says, we live and work in the best city in the world, and that is New York City. If we can't do it, nobody can. So let's make it happen, Queens. Thank you.